Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. Just a short time ago, the bombshell moment in the Alec Baldwin trial. The case suddenly dismissed. Baldwin sobbing in court will go live. The passenger plane set to take off for Miami. Passengers rushing to get off amid smoke. Passengers yelling fire. And the storms in the Northeast, the flood watches in Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. First tonight, this dramatic turn moments ago in the Alec Baldwin trial. The judge dismissing the case. Baldwin in tears, the courtroom stunned. The dramatic turn late today. The American Airlines flight evacuated moments before taking off.
Keep everything behind!
Smoke filling the cabin, passengers rushing the aisle, screaming fire. Also at this hour, President Biden in the key battleground of Michigan. What he just told voters there, and we just learned nearly 23 million Americans watched his live unscripted news conference, with national polls now showing Biden and Trump essentially tied. Tonight in the Northeast, the flood watches, Philadelphia to New York to Boston, and then dangerous heat moving into the Northeast. Lee Goldberg with the forecast. Here in New York City tonight, police hunting for a group of suspected thieves targeting diners, they say, many of them eating outside at high-end restaurants or just leaving. Tonight, a massive data breach targeting millions of AT&T customers, the phone records of nearly every customer exposed. There is news coming in tonight about a person of interest. The deadly crash of a tourist helicopter in Hawaii. Search teams now looking for victims. And the bride and groom and the tribute to the bride's father. And suddenly the moment with all of the butterflies. You have to see this. It had loved ones in tears.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight here with the breaking news. The bombshell moment just a short time ago at the Alec Baldwin trial. The case dismissed. The involuntary manslaughter case against Baldwin dismissed with prejudice, meaning the case is permanently dropped now. The moment the judge announcing the dismissal just a short time ago, you could see Baldwin, his hand to his face there, struggling to hold back tears. He then hugged his attorneys in that courtroom. He then hugged his wife behind him in the courtroom during all of this. It was a stunning turn, nearly 3 years after the fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. This dramatic move came after the defense had accused prosecutors of withholding key evidence. ABC's Mola Lenghi is live at the courthouse in Santa Fe with these late developments. Mola?
Well, that's right, David. This happening just moments ago. Real-life drama playing out in the trial of actor Alec Baldwin. After hours of tense testimony, the judge dismissing this case with prejudice.
Tonight, a stunning and dramatic end in the trial for Alec Baldwin, charged with involuntary manslaughter for the fatal shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the set of the film Rust. Judge Mary Marlowe Summer dismissing the trial with prejudice.
Your motion to dismiss with prejudice is granted.
Baldwin breaking down and sobbing in court after the judge's ruling. The shocking decision coming after a contentious day in court as Baldwin's attorneys asked the judge to throw out his involuntary manslaughter case, accusing prosecutors of failing to turn over key evidence, bullets that they say may have connected the film's ammunition supplier, as well as live rounds found on the Rust movie set.
They buried it. They put it under a different case with a different number.
During a pretrial hearing this morning, the defense claiming Santa Fe County investigators were given ammunition back in March by a retired police officer who alleged the ammunition matched a batch of bullets from the Rust movie set and may have been connected to the bullet that killed cinematographer Halyna Hutchins.
This is critical evidence in the case that was never disclosed to us. It's time for this case to be dismissed, Your Honor.
But the prosecution pushing back today, arguing those rounds did not match the bullets on the set and that the defense was in fact aware of them.
So this is a wild goose chase. This has no evidentiary value whatsoever.
Prosecutors also alleging that the retired police officer who turned in those bullets, Troy Teske, is a family friend of convicted armorer Hannah Gutierrez and likely has ulterior motives. And tonight, the judge having this tense exchange with the lead investigator about if the prosecutor was involved in that decision not to enter the ammo into evidence.
When you say that there were discussions and the decision was made by all of you to put that ammo in a separate file, right? Is that correct? You said that?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Ms. Morrissey part of that discussion?
Yes.
Thank you.
In a dramatic twist, that prosecutor then taking the stand as her own witness.
I was not aware at that point in time that a doc report would not have the same case number as Rust. I was not aware at that point in time that it would not be linked to the Rust case number.
Well, David, we just spoke with the prosecutor right here outside the courthouse who stands by the case that she presented, the case that she argued. As you mentioned, that with prejudice ruling, meaning the state cannot refile these charges against Alec Baldwin. So after nearly 3 years and, of course, a deadly tragedy, Alec Baldwin finally free from this legal ordeal, David.
Just an extraordinary turn there late today. Mola Lenghi, who was there at the courtroom for us. Mola, thank you. We turn now to that emergency on board an American Airlines flight at the San Francisco airport just before takeoff to Miami. Smoke filling the cabin, passengers rushing the aisle, yelling fire. The flight had just finished boarding when the smoke started filling the cabin, passengers scrambling to the exits, going down emergency slides. The San Francisco Fire Department racing to the plane, identifying a backpack with a laptop inside as the source of the problem. Firefighters placing it in a bucket of water. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault tonight.
Go out! Go forward! Go forward!
Tonight, an emergency evacuation in San Francisco as smoke filled the cabin of a packed passenger plane.
It's American 2045. We got a mayday, mayday, mayday. There's a fire in the back of the aircraft. Start the fire rescue.
The pilots of that Miami-bound American Airlines flight making that emergency call just after noon, moments after the plane boarded.
You got rescue coming? Yes, they've already called our red phone. I can see them exiting the fire department just off your right-hand side. They should be there in 2 minutes.
Please just go forward! Go forward!
A person on board telling us they smelled smoke from the back of the plane. People then saying fire and screaming. Passengers shoving up to the front until a flight attendant opened the emergency slides. At least one person suffering minor injuries in the rush. Several fire trucks arriving on the scene, firefighters extinguishing the source of the smoke, which American Airlines tells us came from a laptop in a passenger's bag that the crew then removed. Authorities appearing to place that laptop in a bucket of water on the tarmac.
David, the FAA will now investigate, and while the cause of the fire is still unknown, this could be an example of why officials want lithium-ion batteries kept in carry-ons rather than checked bags, so they're easier to access and extinguish if they spark up. David.
Yeah, we continue to see this as a real concern. Trevor Ault on this for us tonight. Trevor, thank you. Now to the race for the White House this Friday night. At this hour, President Biden in the key battleground state of Michigan fighting to keep his re-election bid alive. What he just told voters there, and we just learned tonight that nearly 23 million Americans watched his live unscripted news conference last night. Many of you watching right here on ABC, with national polls now showing Biden and Trump essentially tied. Mary Bruce with the president in Detroit.
This is an important moment.
President Biden in battleground Michigan tonight talking to supporters at a grill in Detroit, reassuring them he has what it takes to do the job, describing his conversations with foreign leaders at the NATO summit.
Every one of those foreign leaders you saw on television with 32 members of NATO. I'm going to say something outrageous. I'm the guy that pulled NATO together. I was able to expand it. Every time I leave them, they go, you got to win. Because the other guy says, anyway. But we have real opportunities, and so we got to finish the job, and I promise you, I'm okay. Thank you.
But the unrest among Democrats only growing. Late last night after the president's news conference, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries visiting Biden at the White House. Jeffries revealing that in their one-on-one meeting, he directly expressed the full breadth of insight, heartfelt perspectives, and conclusions about the path forward he's heard from his members. Jeffries' brief statement does not say whether he encouraged the president to stay in the race. Today, powerful South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn insisting he's still all in for Biden, while leaving the door open for the president to change his mind.
Let Joe Biden continue to make his own decisions about his future. He's earned that right, and I am going to give him that much respect. If he decides to change his mind later on, then we will respond to that. We have until the 19th of August to open our convention.
And when asked about Vice President Kamala Harris,
I'm with Joe Biden. And if he were to change his mind, I would be all in for the vice president.
Today, the president working the phones to shore up support. A source telling us that in a call with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Congressman Mike Levin of California told Biden directly to get out of the race. But the president insists he's still the person best positioned to beat Trump.
I'm the best qualified to govern. And I think I'm the best qualified to win. But there are other people who could beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch.
He says there's only one thing that could get him to drop out.
Unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
And recent polls, David, show this race is a dead heat, with President Biden recovering a bit nationally since the debate. But Donald Trump is leading in key battlegrounds. And for many Democrats, that is deeply concerning. David.
Mary Bruce in Detroit for us. Mary, thank you. We turn next tonight to the weather concerns from Philadelphia to New York City to Boston. The flood watch is up right now, and then dangerous heat moving into the Northeast. So let's get right to WABC meteorologist Lee Goldberg, back with us again tonight. Hi, Lee.
Hi, David. Tropical rains have been running up the East Coast all day long. For instance, North Carolina all the way to southern New Jersey, 6 to up to 11 inches of rainfall. There's been all types of road flooding, and the flood watches continue from South Carolina to Massachusetts into the day tomorrow. The downpours are driving along a stalled front. It's all being blocked by the Bermuda High. So as we look at it go overnight, we could have rainfall rates for 2 to 4 inches an hour until we get to about mid-afternoon tomorrow. Then things will quiet down. To the heat, it's expanding out west. We have heat alerts for more than 80 million from the California coast all the way out to the plains, and it keeps expanding as we go through the weekend. By the end of the weekend, it actually ends up in the Northeast. Another heat wave brewing. It's going to feel like 100 to 110 with the heat in full force next week. David, at least I can tell you there's relief about a week away. Back to you.
Well, we'll welcome it when it gets here. We got a ways to go. Lee, thank you. Here in New York City tonight, police are on the hunt for suspected thieves targeting diners at high-end restaurants, many of them eating outside or just leaving, and robbing them at the restaurant or on the street. Here's our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, tonight.
Tonight, the NYPD is looking for the suspect seen here, allegedly stealing from customers outside a Brooklyn restaurant, and now wanted in a string of brazen robberies. Authorities accusing them of targeting diners at high-end restaurants, holding them at gunpoint and stealing luxury watches and jewelry before speeding away on motorbikes.
I saw the gun in his hand, this silver little gun, and he pulled it out and he just said, "Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. Give me your Rolex."
Police are seeking at least 2 men who are often accompanied by a woman acting as a lookout, saying they've committed at least a half dozen gunpoint robberies in Manhattan and Brooklyn since March. Surveillance video capturing this incident from May in Williamsburg. An armed man in a helmet snatching watches from 2 diners, valued at tens of thousands of dollars. A getaway driver waiting on a moped at the curb. Just weeks earlier, another group allegedly targeted after leaving a restaurant in Manhattan's West Village. Police are investigating this video showing a moped following the victims. Eric Goldie says he was held up at gunpoint just out of frame. The suspects then fleeing the scene with his watch.
He knew what kind of watch I was wearing. And for me, this was the first time I saw the guy. So someone must have tipped him off.
Police are urgently searching for these suspects, David. They've already stolen about $300,000 worth of luxury items. David?
Really concerning. Aaron Katersky tonight. Thank you, Aaron. We're going to turn now to this massive data breach targeting millions of Americans, millions of AT&T customers. In fact, the phone records of calls and text messages of nearly every customer exposed. And news tonight coming in about a person of interest. ABC's Ariel Reshef on this tonight. Ariel?
David, AT&T says hackers stole call logs and texts from nearly all of its customers back in April, that breach affecting roughly 109 million accounts. Now, the company says that the data from 2022 does not contain the content of those calls or texts or any personal information like social security numbers or birth dates, but hackers did gain access to phone numbers, which they could link back to names. The Justice Department confirms that it is investigating and granted AT&T permission not to report this breach until now, citing national security reasons. AT&T says it is working to notify any of its customers that have been impacted and that it has taken steps to prevent any access to that data in the future. AT&T also saying that it understands at least one person has been apprehended. David?
This is really concerning tonight. Ariel Reshef on this for us. Thank you. Overseas tonight, the Pentagon now saying the U.S.-built pier designed to get aid into Gaza under siege will soon cease operations. They insist that despite the price tag, it helped feed nearly 500,000 civilians in Gaza trapped in this war. Martha Raddatz, who reported from that pier, on this again tonight.
Tonight, this $230 million problem-plagued pier, built to provide desperately needed aid to Gaza, will soon cease operations. Built by the U.S. military on President Biden's order, the pier has been operational only about 20 days since its completion in May due to technical issues and rough seas that the pier could not handle. We were on the pier just weeks ago.
Seeing the destruction of Gaza behind me makes you realize how important humanitarian missions are to get food into Gaza, but it is also obvious how difficult it is on this floating pier. You feel it go up and down, and you can hear the clanging as well.
Despite the massive price tag and the forced shutdowns, the Pentagon called it a success today, with the head of USAID saying enough food has been delivered to Gaza to feed 450,000 people for a month. But it is unclear how much aid actually reached the people after it crossed the pier, those Palestinians whose situation grows more dire every day, the UN saying famine has spread throughout Gaza.
Even President Biden said he had hoped the pier would be more successful, but the Pentagon is working on alternate ways to provide aid. David?
Martha Raddatz, who has followed this from the start. Martha, thank you. Back here tonight, Rudy Giuliani has lost his bid for bankruptcy protection. A federal judge throwing out the case today, citing Giuliani's repeated failure to be transparent about his finances. The former New York City mayor and lawyer for Donald Trump filed for bankruptcy after two Georgia elections workers won a $148 million defamation case against him. Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss may now go after Giuliani's properties and other assets directly. When we come back here tonight, there's been a deadly crash of a tourist helicopter in Hawaii. Search teams are looking for the victims at this hour. We'll have late reporting. And then later here, the bride and the tribute to her father and the moment with the butterflies. You'll see the images here and why so many people were moved by this. Tonight, authorities are searching for two people missing following a deadly tourist helicopter crash in Hawaii. Hikers reported seeing the tour helicopter going down in the waters off Kauai about 24 hours ago. 3 people were on board. Search teams have recovered 1 body. They tell us they are still looking for 2 other victims. No word on what may have caused the crash. When we come back here tonight, 2 years in, the stunning new image just in tonight from the Webb Space Telescope, what it has captured, and we'll show it to you right here. And then the moment at the wedding, the bride, the tribute to her father, and what happened next. You'll see it right here. To the index of other news, and tonight the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket has been grounded now, the FAA taking action following yesterday's launch. The second stage of the rocket exploded in space during an uncrewed Starlink satellite mission. The Falcon 9 is used to send astronauts and satellites into orbit. The FAA will now decide when the rocket can return to flight once it determines what went wrong. NASA tonight celebrating the 2nd anniversary of the James Webb Telescope with a stunning new image. Take a look. It shows 2 galaxies 326 million light years from Earth, known as the Penguin and the Egg, intertwined in what NASA tonight is calling a cosmic hug. When we come back here tonight, America Strong, the bride and groom, the tribute to the bride's father, and no one at the wedding could believe what happened next. Finally tonight here, America Strong, the bride and groom, and the butterflies. Tonight in Dennis, Massachusetts, the bride and the moment at her wedding no one will forget. Amy Rose Perry was 7 years old when her father, Nathaniel, passed away from cancer. He was just 36 years old. When a monarch butterfly landed on her on the 1st anniversary of his death, Amy Rose always believed it was a sign of her father. She has cherished butterflies ever since. So as she planned her wedding, Amy Rose decided to honor her late father by releasing a kaleidoscope of monarch butterflies during the ceremony. But no one at the wedding could have imagined what would happen next. When she opened the glass container, the monarch butterflies did not fly away. Instead, landing on her dress, on her new husband's suit, on her sister's flowers. Experts say monarch butterflies rarely land on people, and everyone at that wedding could not believe what they were seeing. So many moved to tears. And right here tonight,
hi, David.
Amy Rose and her new husband, Matthew.
Monarch butterflies have always been such a strong symbol of his presence after his passing. And we kind of thought, what better way to honor him than to release monarch butterflies during a day where we were missing him so very much. After that moment and really taking it in, I realized how life-altering and profound it really was. I have never felt his presence more in my life, and it was truly beautiful.
They say they will never forget their wedding and the tribute to the bride's father. Well, what a way to honor your father, and what a way to end the week. I'll see you Monday. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.